Welcome to the podcast where we speak truth, illuminate power, and fully embody who the fuck we are. This is the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. We are all about spiritual evolution, spiritual growth, talking about the things that may be controversial, even some triggering concepts, but we are all about expansion. Come on in and join us as we reclaim and recenter ourselves in the power of who we really are. We are the Light Warriors, and welcome to the revolution.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 115, Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. So I want to ask you some heavy questions today inside of this episode about, is it really your time? And is it the time that you think it is? And for you to start to really look inward as to this conversation in your own space. I dive into New Year's. I dive into astrology year. I might tap into your energetic field, things you didn't know about how society's been controlling us through the calendar system. I just opened with that, leading into this conversation about the time is now and about the conditioning that we stepped into as humans in this earth experience to think that we've always got to be on or striving or moving through when sometimes our space is in quietness. And I challenge you today. And I hope you actually feel into this. If this is meant for you today, if you're here listening, it's meant for you to consider maybe something different in your life, to consider a different aspect of things as my ear starts to ring, which I think is so fun. So I'm excited to launch into you another solo episode of the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast, episode 115. Let's get her done. Well, I want to talk into some energy as we move through this next phase of evolution in our life. So for those of you guys listening to the podcast in real time, it's January 6th, the day I'm recording it. This is going to go out into the world on January 7th. And so you guys know, as we move through new calendar years, like December 31st, changing into a new year, technically we could debate that is actually a year shifting and changing based on some historical stuff and the astrology calendar and all the things that we've come to know as being true. And if you don't know this, let me just dive into this for a second, because I feel like someone's going to be like, what is she talking about? Let me talk into this. So if you look at our astrology system, it's built out into 13 astrology signs. It has been said that the world originally in our timelines was built out in the same way. We had 13 months of 28 days. If you look at the moon cycles, it's the exact same thing. We have 13 moon cycles in our lifespan that actually moved within the same days a month in these 13-month processes that we used to live within. And I believe, and every woman also, their bleed cycles used to calibrate with the moon. So if you think about this in the context of this experience, that we are nature as nature is us. We circadian rhythm with literally the sun. When the sun comes up, if you are literally doing the work and you live in awareness and you are in places that this is true, there's no daylight savings time, which fucks up the body rhythm. There is like in Costa Rica, the time never changes. We don't play the game of daylight savings time. When the sun comes up, we wake up, whether it's cloudy out or not. I get up no matter what, the same time, pretty much every day, somewhere between 5:25 and 5:45 inside of the 20-minute span. And sometimes I even wake up before the pups wake up, right? In the space of it all. And that is circadian rhythm, which happens then we start to, after the sun sets, the body starts to recalibrate back down. We start to produce melatonin. The body starts to move its way back into its actual natural rhythm. This happened to me when I first moved to Costa Rica, literally day one. I woke up and I was like, why am I up at 5:30 in the morning? And I didn't realize the fact that the earth holds us. There's a connection to the earth. So women were built this way. We cycle, our moon cycles with the moon. And as we grew up in these environments and as we grew up on the earth experience, we got aligned with the medical system that wanted us to take birth controls. We got aligned with all of these medicinal things that people wanted us to take. We started wearing tampons to plug up our body when our flow is meant to come out of our body, not stay in our body. And a lot, if you dissect this, a lot of the world of feminine hormonal systems was created to fuck the females up. So when they created the calendar system of 12 months, it wasn't in a way of regulating time. It was in a way of restricting humans from vibrating in their calibration. So when I say happy new calendar year, I mean that if we actually go and look at where we're actually meant to be in the world in a timeline, it's a whole different year, which then fucks up the numerology, which means people are then connected into different energies and all the stuff is fucked up, which is really interesting to think about. So I want to remind us all that what you believe is the calibration of belief. So you can choose to believe what you want to believe. And if you are rooted in that belief, then that is your truth. Okay. So like, it doesn't matter what the actual truth is. And you know, what's really fun is my personal new year, where I was birthed in the charts. My first house is in Aries, which means that my personal new year is exactly aligned with the astrology new year as well. And it's like, it's really fun. When you look at that, I'm like, wow, I positioned my soul chose to come down at this exact moment in time to be in alignment with that truth, which probably means as my body goes into goosebumps that I'm meant to share that truth more into the world. Noted, duly noted. But as we move through this calendar new year, I don't know about you, but there's been times in my life where I've been like, it's time now. This is the year. It's time now. And this is the conversation I want to have with you guys today on this very short, potent podcast episode. It's apparently aligning more truths into the world. I want to really ask you this question. We got it all hyped up. We do. Now, I can energetically tell you that this year is my $1 million year. It's already coming through the infrastructure. I feel the escalation of it. As long as I don't fuck it up as a human in this experience, meaning I don't do the work that is being called into me, then it will happen. If I keep on my pathway, if I keep calibrating the energy, if I keep expanding in the energetics, if I keep listening to my intuition and trusting the path and launching the things and stepping up into the space and connecting with the people and being all in over here and getting the mentors needed for the next level and being in that space, it will all happen as long as I don't fuck it up, which means I have free will. My human can choose not to do the work. I can avoid the stuff. I can rebel against it. I can not listen, and then I'll fuck it up. And then I'll get to the end of 2025 and be like, see, it wasn't supposed to be $1 million year because you had to do blah, 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 blah. But I refuse to play in that field. I've been there multiple times in my life. And there's been years where I'm like, this is the year, this is happening, this is happening. And it was gung-ho energy. It no longer feels that way. So there's a difference between being out of alignment and pretending like you are. And there's a difference in energy of this is claimed and it is coming. And I want you to feel this for your own self. When you're stepping into execution over the next few weeks, few months, year, whatever it is, it doesn't even matter when you listen to this podcast. This message is for you right now in this moment of time. When you're moving through your life, here's a couple indicators. Number one, are you aligned in this movement, or is it someone else's movement? Is it someone else whispering to you? Is it someone else dictating this in you? Is it someone else that's been saying that this has to be? Because a lot of us have played in that field. A lot of us are trying to build businesses like our coaches. A lot of us are not believing in our laneways because of our parents. A lot of us are not stepped up into the space this way because we can't, because someone said we couldn't, or because of all the other bullshit that we say to ourselves. So I ask you this question, is it yours? Number one. Number two, do you believe that this is actually possible? Like not surface level believe, not like maybe it would be cool if believe, but deeply rooted inside you. Do you believe? Do you believe? And then allowing yourself to feel that, allowing yourself to be with that, allowing yourself to be like, do I believe? And if you don't believe, what does this actually mean for you? So do you believe part of it? Do you believe a certain version of it maybe? Because sometimes we think it has to happen in this way, whatever this way is, when it's meant to transition into a different way, where it's meant to show up in a different space, where it's meant to kind of come through in a whole other energetic capacity. So I'd love for you to feel into this, to be able to trust in that. And it's not about chastising ourselves or judging ourselves or like having all this energy on things. It's about noting, what does this feel like for you? What does this actually mean for you? How is this showing up in the world? Oh, there's a big energy moving through for somebody. And the next thing is does this actually feel connected? It's not just about belief, but in connection. Because some of us are trying to play out stories that are actually not ours because of whatever reason it is. Some of us don't want to face the truth. Some of us don't want to let go. Some of us are like, all the way, whatever. When I'm asking you today, is this actually connected? Because if I say to you, the time is now, for some of you, it's not the time. It's the time to rest and recalibrate and rejuvenate and align your physical forms. Some of you, the time right now is to turn it up, but it's more so in your relationships and loving in the space of that. Some of you, it is narrowed in time of generating wealth and income and money and prosperity. And for some of us, it's the time for all of it. But for some of us, it's the time to pause for a moment. And when you're listening to this podcast, the time is now for what? It may not be to turn up the heat or to keep that gas pedal down. It may be that you need to start to heal some shit before you can move to the next phase. And that's the real talk of this conversation. And although some days that might be fucking hard for you to feel, but it's like, shit, but I need the money and I need the things. It's like, you're going to be fine. But you can't move to the next level and phase of that until you get this figured out, whatever this is. I think this is the hard part for a lot of us to comprehend, is because we are conscious creators and we can move through stuff and we can put energetic capacity on things and we can claim the life we want. But there's also energy frequencies that need to shift to hold this life. And the work will always come up and come through. At the beginning of 2024, I can imagine, I don't know where my notes are for that year. I don't know where my intentions are. I don't know where any of that is. I cannot find the notebook. I can't find the notes. I can't find the email I sent to I can't find anything that tells me what I was claiming in this 2024 year. But I do know that it was probably one of the darkest years of my life, of recalibrating back into the field, of understanding who I really am, of understanding what I really desire in life, of how I want to show up in the world. You know I've done a lot of work this year on myself when I can get a dragonfly to trust me, to come onto my finger so I can bring it out of my house and back into nature. It takes a lot of safety and frequency for that to happen. I know that something's changed in my life when my neighbor, who refused to ever talk to me, now says hi and smiles. Something changed in the energetic field. And although these are small things, if you look at this in the landscape of it all, it's the truth. And I was only available to drive more energy into the business. Not that I didn't launch things and not that I didn't still sustain certain levels of income. I did. But there were times where I couldn't hold it. I was checked out for like a week, where it's like you couldn't find me. I wasn't posting content. Or if I was, it was like not as connected as it could have been content, because I was just trying to get it out, because I was floundering, because I was in this space of not being able to hold it, because I was in knee deep in my shit. But it took that space and time for me to come to this other side. Now, the business has been building itself for 16 years. I have sustainability. I have reoccurring income. I have stuff that moves through my field. But there were some times where I had to push energy into that to be able to create, to be able to move through. And most people didn't even see the fact that I was in this dark phase of my world. You wouldn't have noticed, because I didn't show up that way. I showed up when we were in programs and offers and things. I was all here with you. I was present. I removed all of that out. But then when a Zoom came off, the recording ended, and we were done, I would come back into the energy. And it was an interesting year. I wouldn't change anything about it, because I needed to go through that. And there's still some work this year to do. There will always be work, but it's not dark like it was there. That opened up then the highest month of revenue in December for me. That's leading into already like surpassing December in the early parts of January. And it's like, wow, something changed. Something changed. I did. The frequency changed. All the calibration changed. The vibrational alignment changed, because I was willing to pause the things that I thought I had to do the actual things I needed to. And that's the kicker. That's the key. Those are the pieces there. So I want to bring this question of, is it your time? And if so, time for what? What is it? And some of you are so frustrated with certain aspects of your life where you're like, fuck it, it's the time. And it's like, it isn't. Not for that, but for this. And I want to remind us of one other thing. There is no rush. Okay, sometimes we're pushed into some timelines because it's like, we got to get that done because that one move is a calibration and a ripple effect for all these other moves. And that's got to start first for all that to happen. That part I get. I understand that. But most of the time we pressure ourselves as a human because we think we should be better than this. We think we should know more than this. We think we should blah, 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 all the things. When it's not true at all. So I want to land that in your energetic field today as this really short, potent podcast comes through as episode 115. All of the guest episodes start at 120. So I've got a few more solo episodes to land in your energetic field before I get this massive movement of guest episodes that are like so expanded for you. I cannot wait to drop these nuggets into your energy field. But in this moment of time, I just want to ask you this question. It's like, where are you really? And can you take personal responsibility that and ownership of that so that then you can dismantle the illusions around it to step up into the next phase because you're willing to do the work? We're all being called forward into the work right now. It's a pivotal aspect of things. You cannot get through to the next phase without it. Sorry, that's where we're at. So feel that. Get honest with yourself. And I'll see you guys all in episode 116.
Well, we know that you like the podcast potentially because you're still here listening to this actual audio at this moment of time. So all that we're going to ask is, can you please just help us share it out? Tag some friends, share it with a friend, help us spread the word, because each of us moving through together as we collaborate, as we move within this light warrior movement, helps each of us illuminate in lights. And we're just so grateful. I'm so grateful. The guests are always so grateful too, that you help us spread the word, that you help us really step into this space to be able to own all of our pathway. And we are just so grateful to have you here. And thank you again for listening.